The Ocean of Consciousness, The Mystery of Sleep, Death, and Immortality. Prologue. What is death if not the shedding of the tight garment of the ego? And what is sleep if not a nightly rehearsal for the great journey back to the source? Blank. Blank. Chapter 1. The Fog of Waking and the Illusion of Unconsciousness. Every night, as darkness descends and the external world settles into silence, you perform humanity's most ancient ritual. You close your eyes, soften your body, and drift away. From infancy, we have been programmed with a staunch belief rooted in Western medicine and materialism. Sleep is a shutdown. We are told the brain is a machine that needs recharging. And when the switch is flipped, your consciousness dissolves into the void, waiting for the sunrise to reboot the operating system known as the self. But listen closely. There is a truth whispering beneath the veneer of those dry medical definitions. In that fleeting moment right before sleep overtakes you, do you feel that slight jolt? That sensation of slipping? That is not a power down. That is a shift, like a radio turning a dial. You are not disappearing. You are merely tuning out of the FM frequency of the physical world and tuning into the AM frequency of the realm of consciousness. Modern neuroscience admits that when we sleep, particularly during REM, rapid eye movement, the brain is far from silent. On the contrary, it explodes with light. The logical centers, those guardians that imprison you within social rules, names, titles, and the anxieties of survival, temporarily close their doors. Yet, the regions responsible for emotion, memory, and vision ignite with an intensity that often burns brighter than your waking state. So, we must ask, is it possible that what we call waking is actually a form of sleep within the physical senses? And that what we call sleep is when we are truly awake in a different dimension? Chapter 2. The Storehouse Consciousness, the Universe's Seed Bank. To decode this mystery, we must step through the gates of Buddhist philosophy, specifically the Yogacara, consciousness-only, tradition. Buddhism does not view sleep as a meaningless void. It perceives sleep as the retreat of the sixth consciousness, mano-vijnana, the discriminating, judging mind, to make way for the storehouse consciousness, alaya vijnana, to operate. Imagine your mind as an ocean. During the day, the winds of life and worldly calculations create waves on the surface. We mistake ourselves for those turbulent waves. But when night falls, the winds die down, the waves settle, and we sink deep to the ocean floor. There, in the profound silence, the alaya vijnana exists. Every action, word, and thought you generate during the day is never lost. They plant seeds, bija, into the soil of this deep consciousness. Dreams, then, are simply the sprouting of these seeds. The narrative you provided touches upon a trembling truth. Dreams are not illusions. They are experiences. When you dream of flying, that sensation of freedom is real. When you dream of a lost loved one and wake with tears soaking your pillow, that grief is real. Why? Because in Buddhism, reality is a projection of the mind. In dreams, with no physical body to limit you, the mind is free to construct worlds from its own karmic energy. You do not enter unconsciousness. You enter a world built entirely by your own energy. You encounter your fears, your desires, and the aspects of your being that you have denied or forgotten while awake. Chapter 3. Vibrational frequency and the quantum mechanics of the soul. Merging this with modern science reveals a startling convergence. Quantum physics tells us that everything is energy. Everything is vibration. Matter is simply energy condensed to a slow vibration. When you are awake, your consciousness is locked into the frequency of the physical body, a slow, dense, and heavy frequency subject to the laws of gravity and linear time. When you sleep, your consciousness unhooks from that physical anchor. Its vibrational frequency accelerates. This is why time in dreams is not a straight line. You can live a lifetime in a 20-minute nap. Space loses its distance. You can be in Paris one moment and on the moon the next. This is not the chaos of a firing brain. This is the natural state of consciousness when it is unshackled from matter. Sleep, in this sense, is a portal. It is a nightly time travel expedition escaping the 3D matrix to return to the quantum state of the mind, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. You are not a piece of meat resting. You are an energy field returning to the source station to synchronize data. Chapter 4. Death, the long dream and the final awakening. If sleep is a temporary frequency shift, then what is death? Both Buddhist philosophy and emerging scientific views on consciousness, such as biocentrism, suggest death is a more radical awakening. The ancients said, "Sleep is the little death, and death is the big sleep." When we die, the process is strikingly similar to falling asleep. Only absolute. The senses shut down. The connection to the physical vessel is severed completely. But the observer, that core consciousness, does not die. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only transform. According to the law of cause and effect, karma, when the physical anchor dissolves, where does consciousness drift? It is magnetically drawn to the frequency that matches the energy it has accumulated. If you have spent a lifetime accumulating the heavy seeds of hatred, anxiety, and greed, your consciousness will carry a heavy density. You will be pulled by gravity toward realms, or rebirths, that match that heaviness, lower states of existence. If you have cultivated love, detachment, and wisdom, your consciousness becomes light and subtle. You will ascend to higher realms or be reborn into circumstances that resonate with that lightness. Therefore, the question, "Where do we go when we die?" is not a question of geography. It is a question of psychology and energetic physics. You go to where your frequency resonates. You become exactly what you have thought and done throughout your life. Chapter 5. Living two lives. We often think we have only one life. But ancient wisdom and deep introspection remind us, we are living two parallel lives. There is the day life, where we play the roles of characters with names, titles, spinning in the grand theater of society. This is the world of the false ego. And there is the night life, where we shed the costume and return to the true self, Atman or Buddha nature. It is where we fly, where we face the naked truth of our hearts, where we connect with dimensions that empirical science cannot yet name. That exhaustion you feel at the end of the day is not just muscle fatigue. It is the call of the soul. It is a spiritual homesickness, a longing for consciousness to return to its primal freedom. If only for a few hours. We crave sleep not just to restore ATP to our cells, but to let the soul breathe, to escape the tight armor of identity. Chapter 6. The Great Unraveling, the Physics of Dissolution. When the medical narrative declares the time of death, it speaks only of the cessation of biological pumps and electrical signals. It speaks of the hardware. But the software, the ghost in the machine, experiences something far more majestic and terrifying than a flatline on a monitor. Tibetan Buddhism describes the process of dying not as a switch turning off, but as a sequential dissolution of the elements. It is a cosmic dismantling. First, the earth element dissolves into water. The body feels impossibly heavy, sinking, losing its structural integrity. Then, water dissolves into fire. The bodily fluids dry up, and the cold creeps in from the extremities. Fire dissolves into wind, the warmth leaves. The breath becomes a gasp, a final rattling release, and finally, wind dissolves into space. This is not merely poetic symbolism, it is an energetic truth. From a thermodynamic perspective, death is the ultimate increase of entropy within the biological system. The order that held billions of atoms together in the shape of U collapses. But where does that binding energy go? The first law of thermodynamics screams the answer. Energy is conserved. As the physical anchor disintegrates, the consciousness is ejected from the neural networks of the brain. It is no longer filtered through the amygdala's fear or the prefrontal cortex's logic. It is raw, naked awareness. In this moment, the illusion of separation vanishes. The clear light, described in the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying, is likely the experience of consciousness encountering its own source, a singularity of pure energy. It is similar to a photon escaping a star, for a brief moment. It is blindingly free, timeless, and infinite. Chapter 7. The Bardo, the holographic mirror of the soul. But why don't we just stay in that light? Why do we return? Because we are heavy. We are weighed down by the gravity of our own unfinished business. After the initial flash of death, the consciousness enters the bardo, the intermediate state. This is the dream that connects one life to the next. If sleep is a nightly lucid dream, the bardo is a hyper-lucid reality where the environment is instantly responsive to your thoughts. Here, science and spirituality meet in the concept of the holographic universe. In the bardo, there is no solid matter to buffer your emotions. If you die with a heart full of rage, that rage instantly manifests as a terrifying environment, a hellscape of fire and demons. If you die with a heart full of devotion and peace, that frequency manifests as celestial gardens or benevolent beings. You are not being punished or rewarded by an external god. You are walking through the landscape of your own psyche. This is where the life review occurs. It is not a courtroom judgment. It is a phenomenon of quantum entanglement. Throughout your life, you have entangled your energy with others, every person you loved, hurt, helped, or betrayed. In the bodiless state of the bardo, the barriers of self and other, dissolve. You relive your life. But with a twist. You feel the effects of your actions from the perspective of the other person. You feel the sting of the insult you delivered. You feel the warmth of the kindness you offered. It is a moment of absolute, devastating empathy. This is the mechanism of karma. It is the physics of equilibrium. The universe seeks balance, and your consciousness must integrate the data of both cause and effect before it can move on. Chapter 8. The Gravity of Desire and the Orbit of Rebirth. So, how does reincarnation happen? Why are we pulled back into the meat suit? Into the womb? Into the struggle? The Buddha identified the engine of rebirth with a single word: tanha, thirst, craving. Think of your consciousness as a comet traveling through space. If it is traveling fast enough, detached, enlightened, it breaks free of the solar system. But if it is heavy, laden with desires, attachments, grudges, and addictions, it gets caught in the gravitational pull of a planet. That planet is a new womb. We are not randomly thrown into a new body. We are magnetically attracted to specific parents and specific environments that resonate with our karmic frequency. This is the law of resonance. If a consciousness dies with a deep obsession for power, it will be pulled toward a genetic line and an environment where that game of power can be played out, perhaps a war zone or a wealthy, corrupt family. If a consciousness dies with a deep, unfulfilled love for music, it might be drawn to a family of musicians. Science tells us that information seeks a medium. A song cannot exist without air or a speaker. A code cannot function without a computer. Similarly, the complex information structure of your self, your habits, your talents, your neuroses, which Buddhists call samskaras, desires a physical medium to express itself again. We come back because we want to. Even our suffering is a form of attachment. We come back to finish the argument, to kiss the lover we lost, to hoard the gold we couldn't take with us. The material world is unfinished business. And until we learn the lesson of letting go, we remain caught in its orbit. Chapter 9. The Illusion of Time and the Eternal Now. One of the most difficult concepts to grasp is that this process might not be linear. We view reincarnation as life A, followed by life B. But quantum physics challenges our perception of time as a straight arrow. In the quantum realm, the past, present, and future exist in a superposition. Time is a construct of the biological brain to process entropy. When we step out of the brain at death, we step out of time. Therefore, the concept of past lives is a linguistic convenience. They might better be understood as parallel selves. You are not just a single melody, you are a chord. Your soul is playing multiple notes simultaneously across different epochs. The you that is a warrior in ancient Rome, the you that is a scientist in the future, and the you reading this text right now, all are expressions of the same oversoul, learning different lessons in different costumes. When you have a vivid dream of a past life, or a sensation of déjà vu, it may be a moment of quantum tunneling, a leak of information from one part of your soul spectrum to another. You are remembering who you are, beyond the temporary amnesia of this current lifetime. Chapter 10. Breaking the Cycle, the Science of Nirvana. If the cycle of birth and death is a wheel fueled by desire and karma, what is the exit strategy? What is the point of it all? The goal of Buddhism is not to ensure a better rebirth. A golden cage is still a cage. The goal is nirvana, liberation. In scientific terms, if samsara, the cycle of rebirth, is a closed system of high entropy and chaotic energy, nirvana is the state of zero-point energy. It is the stillness at the center of the storm. To achieve this, one must dismantle the observer that clings. We must stop identifying with the data, the memories, the emotions, the body, and realize we are the space in which the data is happening. When you cease to cling to the illusion of being a separate self, the gravity of karma loses its hold. There is no you to be reborn. Because you realize you are everything. You don't need to return to a specific wave because you remember you are the water. This is the ultimate evolution of consciousness. We start as unconscious unity, minerals, plants. Move to conscious separation, animals, humans. And strive for conscious unity, enlightenment. Epilogue to Part 2. The Traveler's Promise. So, tonight, when you lay your head down, remember, you are practicing for the great departure. Do not fear the darkness behind your eyelids. It is the same darkness that existed before the Big Bang. Pregnant with potential, it is your home. You are a traveler who has forgotten his name. Wandering through the hotels of flesh and bone. The death you fear is merely the checkout time. But the traveler, the silent witness, the spark of awareness that looks out through your eyes, never checks out. It moves on, it expands, it returns to the stars from which it came. Only to dance again when the music of the universe calls for a new song. You are not the dream. You are the dreamer. And the dreamer is immortal.